I started this video as just a comparison between the Canon C70 and the Canon R5C, as I just saw a post about the latter getting accepted into Netflix approved camera list. Then I saw a video from CVP, which is a fantastic YouTube channel. I recommend checking them out. They released a video about how the R5C just got a major update. And while I was watching that video, what do I see in my suggested? But of course, a stream of videos showing off the new Red Komodo X. After looking up the price of the Red Komodo X, I was taken aback a bit, as the new Red Komodo X is a lot of money for something that needs so much to get to a usable point. Let's dive in to how I would use each of these cameras as a wildlife cinema setup. Starting with the Canon R5C. I would be using the R5C in 8K, using a 100 to 500, along with a Portkey EVF. Now, I know that the R5C does have an EVF, but I would much rather use an external EVF. That would make the entire setup costing around $8,500. And it would weigh 4.7 pounds. I think it would be a fantastic setup, but let's dive into some details and thoughts on the Canon R5C. Coming in at around $5,000, the Canon R5C is a fantastic deal. It can take pictures, which this is something that does make a big difference. So much so that when I wanted to upgrade from my first camera, the Canon T7, I was looking at getting a Blackmagic pocket camera because I wanted to get into wildlife video, but I also thoroughly enjoy taking videos of the wildlife. Now, I am very happy with my Canon 90D purchase. It allowed me to learn so much about photography that in turn allowed the learning of video principles a lot easier. Now, video is very, very important, but nonetheless, you still need to take pictures. I love taking wildlife pictures and having them framed. Not only that, but the concept of freezing a sliver of time permanently and perfectly is just incredible to me. The Canon R5C can shoot in 8K. Now, I've said that 4K is the bare minimum for wildlife footage, and I do mean that. So it would be a no-brainer to go with the camera that has 8K. Maybe I should aim for the Blackmagic Ursa 12K, right? Now, that may be true with the Blackmagic, but when it comes to Canon's R5C, there are some drawbacks. 8K needs external power to shoot, and you need the CF Express Type B to shoot higher load settings. The sensor size of the Canon R5C is a full frame 45 megapixels, which is incredible. When I first saw the 45 full frame megapixels, I was taken aback. That is so amazing. I remember Brandon from Linus Tech Tips talking about a camera that has over 50 megapixels. Getting up to that many megapixels is crazy. Yes, it's true, you don't need that, but that does not matter. We always strive for the very best when making marketing stats. Full frame is the best you can get for low light next to infrared or specialized made cameras. Full frame sensors let in a lot more light compared to crop sensors or, God forbid, micro four thirds. Both CF Express Type B and SD. This is one thing that I have never liked. Growing up with the tech side of YouTube, such as Linus Tech Tips, teaching me that redundancy is key, I later grew interested in cameras and watched channels such as Tony Northrup, who was constantly spouting about failed SD cards and the need for dual card slots. My camera only has one card slot, and I'm pretty worried about failing cards. So if I'm spending a lot of money for my big upgrade, for my documentary camera, then I want it to have two card slots. The Canon R5C is an RF mount. RF is the new standard, and though some people may disagree, but Canon holds the biggest market share. So what they do is going to make waves. Blackmagic and Red both used their EF mount. and now have moved to their RF mount. Now, whether this is a pro or a con for me is still up in the air. I really enjoy what Canon is doing with their RF and new mirrorless cameras. But the thing is, I really like the old EF lenses. They just have a certain feel that I don't get with the new RF lenses. Now, just like most of Canon's cameras, this camera has a fully articulating screen, so it's amazing to work with. It was a major upgrade when I went from my Canon T7 to my 90D, and having the ability to put the camera low to the ground and not need to get down on all fours and crawl. And this isn't a movable screen like other cameras where they pivot or flip down. This is the real deal, meaning you can see it from almost anywhere. Now we are moving on to the Canon C70 with the Sigma 150 to 600 millimeter with a Portkey EVF. That would make the setup cost $9,000 and come in weighing 7.21 pounds. Now that is a heavy setup, but that isn't the whole picture. I would want to bring my Canon 90D to take pictures, as the C70 cannot take any photo. And I want to share the lens that I'm most likely to bring. That would be the Canon 100 to 400 USM Mark II, meaning that this setup actually comes to costing $12,500. And that is now 2 cameras, 2 lenses, not to mention, if I'm going to be making documentaries about people, then the Canon 24 to 105 Mark II would be ideal with the Rode NTG5. This is the setup I want to bring for my Newfoundland documentary. Now, that means that I am taking 14 grand worth of documentary equipment, just the base equipment. Now that is crazy because that does not include any rigging, batteries, drones, or underwater drones that I've been looking into. I'm writing that documentary right now, and I will be refining it for an entire year. I will make a video on that later, including everything from budgeting to shot list and everything in between. Now we are going to dive into the details of the C70. The price comes in at $6,000 plus $1,000. Now, why that extra $1,000, you may ask? Well, I'm including the cost of the focal reducer, as it would bring the focal view to a more full frame view, not to mention letting in an entire extra stop of light. Unfortunately, with this camera setup, you cannot take any pictures, meaning that if you want stills, you either need to take them from the video and hope that there is no movement or motion blur, or do what I would do and opt for bringing a completely separate stills setup. As I have said before, I believe that if you are wanting to shoot wildlife footage, then 4K is the new minimum. This camera has fantastic 4K, but no matter how nice the 4K is, you cannot beat downscaled 4K. Now, that just means you're taking a bigger picture and compressing it down to a smaller picture, which means you have a super dense, smaller final image. The sensor size on the Canon C70 is a Super 35 8.8 megapixel sensor. Now, a lot of people say that anything less than full frame is a waste of time. That is where the focal reducer would come in handy, as it would widen the view and let in more light. Okay, but wait, it's only 8 megapixels, I hear you say, probably. And yes, that is true. I did say earlier in this video how much I love higher megapixels. And yes, that is very, very true for stills. Taking video is different. You only need 8 megapixels for 4K footage. Damn! Those fine folks at Canon have done it again. That being said, if this camera was being used for taking pictures, then yeah, this camera is as good as an early 2000s camera. That's when I was born. We are now over 2 decades in technological advances. How is it only 8 megapixels? I just told you that you only need 8 megapixels. No, I'm not arguing with you guys. This is all filmed a long time before you guys even watched this video. In fact, I started writing this script over 2 weeks ago. Like I said before, the best way to do redundancy is to have a backup, because technology will fail. So if you value your photos, then having it transferred to 2 cards straight from the sensor is going to be your best bet. And that means that you will still have your breathtaking footage. Now, the mount type on the Canon C70 is a bit complicated, as the Canon C70 has an RF mount, but when you put the focal reducer on it, now, magically, through the power of science, it's now an EF mount. That means you get to use all the best of the EF lineup. Here's a secret. You know how when you buy a brand new car and drive it off the lot and suddenly it's worth a lot less? The same can be said for camera equipment. When you are buying older, pro-level equipment, you are saving so much money and letting everyone else beta test everything. So by the time that you get around to moving on to that next generation, the price has dropped a lot. Yes, it is true that if you are looking at the screen of the Canon C70, there were some issues with the build quality. And I don't want to sound like a fanboy, but now that people have beta tested it, guess what? Canon has fixed it and put on a stronger hinge. Would I be using the screen? Yes, but not every time. I would also want to use the same EVF, so you can see it even in bright light. Now, let's dive into the newest, most expensive camera on this list, the Red Komodo X. It's costing as much as the previous setup. That includes a DSLR, a cinema level camera, 3 lenses, an EVF, and a pro level Rode XLR microphone. When it comes down to it, you can get all of that or a 4x4 aluminum camera that still needs a lens or two, audio recording, and a grip of some sort if you are ever going to take it off of the tripod. But that is all fine and dandy, but here is the important question. Is it worth it? Let's dive into the specifics and what makes this camera potentially worth that much. The Red Komodo X sensor. The most important part of almost all cameras is the sensor. Now, Red is well known for using global shutter readout. What does that mean? Well, it means that it reads the entire sensor, not like how a lot of other sensors take video, and that's being from the top down to the bottom. But why does that actually matter? Let's take a look at the Canon R50, because I've noticed it has very bad rolling shutter. You can see how the same test that everyone else uses. Can you see the jello looking in all the straight lines? That is rolling shutter. I'm gonna use the same test that CVP uses. They are a phenomenal group of creators that is super knowledgeable. You can see how the fan blades start to blur. Some people believe that there is a different feeling to the footage. Now, I don't actually know if there is a different feeling because I've not used a Red camera. I have thought of buying an older camera, kind of like how Camera Conspiracy bought the first Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera. I have thought of picking up a Blackmagic 4K. I mean, if it's good enough for Jared Undone, then it would be way too good for me. That is a lot of name dropping, just so I can justify putting their names in the tags. But you gotta do what you gotta do. I would love picking up a Red camera, but at the same time, I'm thinking I'm just buying in to the PR marketing of the Red cameras. They are used throughout the film industry, so I would think that they would have some credibility, and you would think that they are top notch. Now, the price comes in at $13,000. As I mentioned before, the fact that this camera can't take pictures wouldn't normally be a detriment, but in my use case, I do need both. I need a camera to take videos and pictures because I still do really enjoy taking pictures of wildlife. It brings me a lot of joy. There's just something special about all the effort that goes into that one picture when you know you get that shot and you know it's good. I have found that shooting wildlife is a lot easier than photographing them. I think it's the fact that you can just throw it in 120 FPS and it will look amazing. Whereas with photos, you need to get all the settings right, hope the bird is in a visually pleasing position. You can shoot 6K at 60 FPS. I have said that 4K is the bare minimum, so of course 6K far better, right? Well, yeah, obviously. At 6K, your footage has more longevity compared to something that is just 4K. So even if requirements change for those streaming services in a few years, you're still good and you don't have to buy a new camera setup or struggle to reshoot that amazing shot. Like I said, the movie magic is mostly in the frame rate. So that's why you shoot in 24 FPS and not 60. With other cameras, when you put it into 120 FPS, it drops down to 1080p. At this price point, it's kind of expected that it should have the most commonly used frame rates in 4K or higher. Now, the debate for full frame and Super 35 is a very heated one that I don't know the correct answer to, but even Arri cameras have come out in Super 35. So it can't be the worst. Not only is it a Super 35 sensor, but it's also a global shutter. I don't know of many other, if any, companies that use global shutter sensors. CF Express Type B. I have said that I'm not a fan of all of these new type of cards, but hopefully in a little bit there'll be a big meeting between all the camera manufacturers and they can agree on a standard card type like they did with SD cards. It just seems like I can't commit to a camera that uses a weird card type just for a few years later having to throw out a ton of cards and card readers. I do not think that it's a secret that for right now, I am Team Canon. So the fact that they are using Canon's new lens lineup is definitely a plus for me. I know with the other Komodos, you can switch it out for a PL mount, and that is the standard for a lot of film cameras, and that is what most of the industry uses. This is actually one of the only cameras that I have seen that doesn't have a movable screen. Like, nothing at all. Not even a pivot screen. It is just built right into the body. I guess we should consider ourselves lucky though, because most of Red's cameras don't even have that kind of screen. Here's the thing. Working on this video, I do honestly think that I have changed my mind, as I was 100% set on buying the Canon C70. Now, I'm not too sure, and I'm seriously debating that choice, as I am very much considering purchasing the Canon R5C. I mean, I'm a sucker for a high megapixel sensor. It is one of my favorite things about the Canon 90D. I know that isn't everything. The ability to shoot in 8K and take pictures with a 45 megapixel sensor is truly something that greatly appeals to me. That is why I am most likely going to start a deep dive into the Canon R5C. And I will probably make another video on that camera all by itself. This is the end of the video. I hope it made your day a little bit better. If you want your wildlife or pet footage with a shout out at the end of my video, then send it to me. I will see you fine internet folks next Tuesday morning.